Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us today for morning prayer. This morning, we read from the gospel. We read that famous story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 men plus the women and children. The story goes that Jesus he went out by himself, and he went out by himself in a boat. And the people all around, they needed him. They wanted to be around him. They wanted to hear more from him. They wanted to experience his miracles. They wanted to experience his healing. They wanted to be there for his teaching. And so they gathered around. Obviously, thousands of them gathered around him. Now, this is pretty amazing. All right? This is pretty amazing that Jesus could cause that kind of a fuss, that many people want to be present to him when he's in their area. But that's not the miracle that we're going to talk about today. The day grows long, and his disciples say, "Man, listen, you got to send them off. There's nothing here for them to eat. This is a deserted place. This is a desolate place. You've got to send them away now so that they can make it to the villages and to the towns where they'll be able to buy themselves some food." And Jesus' response, he says, "Well, you feed them. They don't need to go anywhere. You feed them." The disciples, "We can't feed them. We don't have that kind of money. We don't have that kind of food. All we have are some fish and some bread. We don't have enough of it." Jesus then works that great miracle where he feeds these thousands of people. And in the end, he has like baskets and baskets and baskets full of food left over. Far more food left over than what he began with. Now, I've often heard people say, well, that's because Jesus started as an example of giving away all they had, and the people who were with them, they also put in all the food that they had actually brought with them too, and in the end they fed everybody and they had all this food left over, and that's fine. And I've heard people say, no, this was a moment where Jesus literally multiplied the food, and he took this bread and he made more bread, and every time they broke it, it made more bread, and every time they opened the fish, it made more fish. And that's fine too. The thing for me in this, as I was reading it yesterday and today especially, was that Jesus did not want these people to have to go out into the world to be fed. He wanted them to know that they could be fed right there with him. He didn't want them to have to abandon his teaching even for a minute. He didn't want them to have to turn their back on him even for a minute. He didn't want them to have to walk away even for a few minutes to get some food. He wanted them to focus on him. He didn't want them to stop focusing on him. No matter what, even for something as basic as food, even for a necessity like food. In our church today, this is kind of like what happens. We come to church on Sunday morning, or maybe we get together for a Bible study during the week as well, or a choir practice, or a parish council meeting. Maybe we get together for a prayer group, whatever. But when those things are over, we always go home. We always return back to our lives. We always go back to taking care of ourselves. We always go back to doing the things that we think we're supposed to do, to doing the things that we think that we have to do. Some things are necessities like eating. Some things are things that we think are necessities, and we've given them the same importance that we give to the necessities. Some things are just the things that we go back to because we want them. But we always seem, and I'm not sure if we would admit it, but we always seem to walk away from Him and go back to life, to go back to taking care of ourselves. And we do, we take him with us, we take his teaching and we try to apply it in life, but it's often not enough. We still fall into those same traps that non-Christians do, that non-believers do. We still fall into the trap of judgment, of judging others. We still fall into the trap of gossip. We still fall into the trap of selfishness. We still fall into the trap of sin. Either it's the sin of the things we do or the sin of the things we don't do. We fall into that trap. Because for those few minutes, those hours, those days in between the time that we spend with God through Christ, that time we spend between our encounters with Jesus, we spend that on focusing on the requirements, the demands of this world. What would life be like if we didn't walk away from him? What would life be like if we maintained our focus on him? What would life be like if we never turned our back even to get food? What would life be like if we never walked away even to take care of the necessities? What would life be like if we were actually able to stay out of the world? I think this miracle actually tells us what it would be like. We'd be witnesses to miracles. We'd be witness to life-changing events. We'd be witness to awestruck, powerful moments with God. Our lives would change. Our trust in God would grow. It would be developed. It would be practiced. And I believe our needs would be met. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, and may you know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that you will see just how much Jesus wants to do for you if you'll only give him your attention and leave it there. Amen.